They laughed. Oh, they laughed hard. When I dropped out of college to be a YouTuber, it wasn't just laughter. It was mockery. Another dreamer, they said. He'll come crawling back in 6 months. But tonight, I just signed a deal. $10 million. For the same channel they said would ruin my life. Crazy, right? You spend years being called a fool, and then suddenly, everyone wants to know your secret. But here's the thing, no one sees. The nights when I stared at a blank screen, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. The silence when the views stopped. The fear when my rent was overdue. Again. And the irony? Those same people who laughed at me. They now ask for selfies. Funny world, isn't it? But before you hit like or subscribe, remember this. Success stories aren't built on luck. They're built on scars, and mine, it started the night I walked out of that classroom and never looked back. Let me tell you how it all began. I still remember that day like a scar that never quite healed. The morning light hit my dorm window, but instead of feeling hope, all I felt was noise. Lectures, deadlines, people pretending they had life figured out. I was sitting in the back row of a marketing class, half listening, half dreaming, when something inside me just snapped. The professor was talking about career stability, and I remember thinking, stability for who? Because nothing about my life felt stable. Not my thoughts, not my grades, not my heart. Every day, I woke up feeling trapped in someone else's idea of success. My parents thought college would fix me, that a degree would make me respectable. But all I wanted was to create. I used to spend nights watching YouTube creators who built empires from their bedrooms. They made it look easy, but more than that, they made it look real. There was no pretending, no suits, no fake smiles, just stories, ideas, and courage. And something about that hit me like lightning. When I told my parents I was dropping out, the silence was louder than any argument. My mom looked like she'd seen a ghost. My dad just shook his head and said, "You'll regret this." I wanted to tell them that regret was already my roommate. That every day I spent doing something I didn't love was another piece of me dying quietly. But instead, I just packed my bag and walked out. My friends didn't take it any better. Some laughed, others pitied me. One of them even said, "Bro, you're not PewDiePie." And maybe I wasn't. But I had something no one else did. The need to prove them wrong. The need to show that I wasn't crazy. That my dream wasn't a joke. The first night after dropping out, I sat on my bed in a tiny apartment staring at my camera. A cheap second-hand DSLR that barely focused. I whispered to myself, "This is it. No plan B." My hands were shaking, but deep down, I knew something powerful had begun. Not success, not fame, but war. A war between who I was and who I wanted to be. That night, I didn't sleep. I edited my first video till sunrise. And when I finally hit upload, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. The first few weeks felt like standing in the middle of a storm I'd created myself. My laptop was slow, my mic made every breath sound like thunder, and the lighting in my room made me look like a ghost. Still, I posted, every single day. Tutorials, reactions, commentary, anything I thought could get me noticed. But nobody cared. 10 views. Sometimes 5, sometimes 0. Each upload felt like throwing a message in a bottle into the ocean and praying someone, anyone, would find it. Rent was due. My savings were dying faster than my motivation. I remember eating instant noodles while editing, pretending it was part of some grind montage. But it wasn't glamorous. It was survival. Every upload came with a rush of hope, followed by silence that echoed louder than rejection. I started questioning everything. Was I stupid for leaving college? Was I chasing a fantasy? I'd stare at my reflection on the laptop screen and whisper, "You're in too deep to quit now." The world didn't make it easier. Old classmates would send me DMs, not to check in, but to laugh. "So how's YouTube fame treating you?" One said, followed by a laughing emoji. My parents stopped calling for a while. I could feel their disappointment, even in the silence. Every comment, every failure, every empty notification. It all piled up until I almost stopped believing in myself. But then, there was that one night. It was 3 a.m., and I was editing a video that I didn't even think was special. Just a random story about people chasing their dreams. I uploaded it, turned off my laptop, and went to sleep. When I woke up, everything had changed. 100,000 views. My phone was exploding. Notifications everywhere. My heart felt like it was going to break through my chest. For a moment, I thought it was a glitch. But it wasn't. It was real. That video didn't just go viral. It gave me air when I was drowning. The comments poured in. People saying things like, "You inspired me to start my own journey," and "This story hit me hard." For the first time, strangers saw me, not as a dropout, but as someone who believed. I smiled for the first time in weeks, but deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Because fame comes with a whisper, and that whisper always asks, "Can you keep this up?" I didn't know it yet, but my biggest battles were still waiting. The hate, the burnout, the loneliness hiding behind the screen. They were coming for me, and I wasn't ready. That viral video changed everything. Or at least it felt like it did. One night I was a nobody talking to a silent screen, and the next morning I was that guy from YouTube. The numbers were climbing so fast I could barely keep up. 10,000 views, 50,000, a million. My subscriber count jumped like wildfire. My email flooded with messages from people saying how much they related to my story. How I made them believe in chasing their dreams. For a few days, I felt invincible. Every notification was like a hit of pure adrenaline. But success is strange. It doesn't knock politely. It crashes in and demands you to keep up. Suddenly, people expected more. Every comment section said the same thing. When's the next video? I wasn't just creating anymore. I was performing. I had tasted attention, and I was terrified of losing it. So I kept going. No breaks, no sleep, no balance. My tiny room turned into a battlefield. Coffee cups, cables, and scripts everywhere. The glow of my screen was the only light I saw. I experimented with new formats, new ideas. Some failed miserably, but some hit harder than I ever imagined. One video got picked up by a major creator who shared it on their channel, and overnight, my subscriber count doubled. That shout-out opened doors I never even knew existed. Brands started reaching out. People I once admired wanted to collaborate. My inbox, once empty, became a sea of opportunity. Still, a part of me couldn't forget the laughter. The same voices that told me I'd fail were now congratulating me. "You got lucky," one of them said. I smiled, but it stung. Lucky? They didn't see the nights I edited until sunrise. They didn't see the anxiety, the rejections, the doubt. No, this wasn't luck. This was survival dressed as success. I remember the first time I got paid from YouTube. It wasn't much, just a few $100s. But I stared at that number for minutes. My heart pounded. That small amount wasn't just money. It was proof. Proof that I hadn't ruined my life. Proof that I could make it on my own terms. But as the numbers grew, so did the pressure. Every view felt like a countdown. One mistake, and it could all vanish. The comment sections got harsher. People who once supported me began to critique everything. "He's changed," they said. Maybe they were right. Maybe success was already changing me. Still, I couldn't stop. I was addicted. Not to fame, but to the idea that I could finally rewrite my story. That I could take every insult, every laugh, every doubt, and turn it into something unforgettable. What I didn't realize then was that the higher you climb, the thinner the air gets. And soon, I'd learn that every rise comes with a cost. The climb didn't feel like success at first. It felt like chaos, thrilling, exhausting chaos. I was working 16-hour days, filming, scripting, editing, responding, posting. My life became a loop of deadlines and caffeine. Every time I hit upload, my chest would tighten, waiting for the numbers to roll in. One video flops, and it feels like the world is ending. One goes viral, and you feel like a god. I was chasing those highs, addicted to the rush of approval from millions of strangers. With every milestone, the stakes got higher. 100,000 subscribers turned into 1,000,000. My apartment changed, my setup changed, even my voice changed. Deeper, more confident, maybe a little colder. I told myself I was still the same person. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. The kid who dropped out chasing freedom was now chained to the thing that gave him that freedom. My audience grew fast. and so did my brand deals. Suddenly, companies were offering me thousands just to mention their products. My inbox looked like a business portfolio, not a dreamer's notebook. I hired a small team. An editor, a manager, a thumbnail guy. I should have felt proud, but instead I felt something else. Fear. Fear that it could all collapse as quickly as it began. I remember one night, sitting in my expensive chair, surrounded by the gear I once dreamed of owning. The channel had just crossed 5 million subscribers. My phone buzzed nonstop. Congratulations, offers, sponsorships. I should have been celebrating, but I couldn't. I felt empty. The joy that once came from creating something new was replaced by anxiety about what to post next. I was no longer creating from passion. I was producing for performance. My family finally came around. They said they were proud that I had proven everyone wrong. But there was something off in their tone. Like they were proud of the money, not the man. My friends? Some drifted away. Success has a funny way of rearranging your circle. Suddenly, people who once ignored you now want to collaborate. Others whisper behind your back, calling you arrogant. I learned quickly that success doesn't just elevate you. It isolates you. But I kept pushing, 'cause that's what winners do, right? Keep moving. Keep grinding. Keep smiling for the camera, even when your soul is cracking behind the lens. I told myself I was building an empire. I told myself the exhaustion was temporary, but deep down I could feel the burnout creeping in, slow and quiet like a shadow. I didn't know it then, but I was standing on the edge of something dangerous. The pressure, the expectations, the endless noise, it was all building toward a breaking point. The fame I fought for was about to test me in ways I couldn't imagine. It happened slowly at first. A skipped upload here, a missed deadline there. I told myself I was just tired, that I'd bounce back. But the truth was I was running on fumes. Every time I looked into the camera, I felt like I was pretending. Pretending to be happy, pretending to care, pretending that the comments still meant something. I'd scroll through my own channel and not recognize the person smiling back at me. The kid who once dreamed of creating had turned into a machine. Then came the whispers. The ones you hear only when everything gets quiet. You're losing it. You're not relevant anymore. They weren't real voices, but they felt real enough. Every post that didn't perform made me spiral. I started overanalyzing everything. Thumbnails, titles, timing. I'd refresh my analytics until the numbers blurred. No matter how big I got, it was never enough. The hunger that once fueled me had turned into something darker. Obsession. My team noticed the cracks before I did. My editor said, "Man, you need a break." I laughed it off. "Breaks are for people who can afford to slow down," I told him. But deep down, I knew he was right. My hands would tremble while editing. My sleep vanished. I lived off coffee, energy drinks, and fear. Fear that if I stopped, even for a day, everything I built would disappear. Then one night, it all came crashing down. I was filming a new video, one I'd rewritten 5 times, trying to make it perfect. Halfway through recording, my camera died. Normally, I'd just laugh it off. But that night I snapped. I slammed my hands on the desk so hard the mic fell over. The sound echoed through the empty room, and for the first time in years, I felt something break inside me. I just sat there, staring at the mess, shaking. Not angry, not sad, just empty. I didn't post for weeks after that. My audience noticed. The comments went from concern to criticism. "He's changed. Guess he couldn't handle the pressure. Another burnout." Reading them felt like bleeding in public. The same people who cheered for my rise were now dissecting my fall. And that's when I realized something brutal. Success doesn't love you back. It takes what it wants, and when you can't give anymore, it moves on. During that silence, I started asking myself questions I'd been avoiding for years. Why did I start? What was I chasing? The answers weren't pretty. I started this journey for freedom. But somehow I ended up more trapped than ever, chained to numbers, opinions, and expectations. But maybe that breakdown wasn't the end. Maybe it was the start of something else, something honest. Because when everything burned to ashes, all that was left was me. Silence has a way of forcing you to listen. Not to the world, but to yourself. Those weeks away from the camera felt like standing in a dark room with no exits. For the first time in years, there were no deadlines, no analytics, no pressure to perform. Just me and the quiet hum of a life I had forgotten how to live. It was terrifying. But somewhere in that silence, I started hearing something faint. My own voice again. Not the one shaped by algorithms or sponsors, but the one that once whispered, "Just create." One morning I went for a walk. No phone, no camera. Just me and the sunrise. It felt almost foreign, like I'd been missing from my own life. I realized I didn't hate creating. I hated what I'd turned it into. I wasn't burned out from YouTube. I was burned out from pretending. That thought hit me hard. I wanted to make something real again, something that actually mattered. Not for views, not for fame, just for truth. So I started from scratch. I shut down every brand deal, paused every sponsorship, and told my audience I needed to start over. Some didn't take it well. The numbers dropped. But for the first time, it didn't scare me, because this time, I wasn't chasing approval. I was chasing purpose. I began filming raw, unfiltered videos. No fancy cuts, no dramatic music. Just stories about struggle, failure, and rebuilding. I shared what it felt like to lose yourself in success. I spoke about mental health, about burnout, about the ugly side no one posts about. And strangely, people connected with it deeply. The comments were different now. Less noise, more heart. People said things like, "I thought I was the only one feeling this way." That's when I realized what real influence is. It's not about being followed. It's about being felt. My content evolved, and so did I. Slowly, the channel began to grow again. But this time it felt steady. Genuine. I no longer checked numbers. I checked impact. Somewhere along the way, I found peace. Not the kind that comes from success, but the kind that comes from surrender. From accepting that you don't need to be everything to everyone. I reconnected with my parents too. My dad watched one of my new videos and called me after months of silence. He said, "Now I see why you dropped out." That single sentence healed something I didn't know was still broken. My life wasn't perfect. It never would be. But for the first time, it was mine. I'd fallen, burned, and rebuilt. And in that rebirth, I found something worth far more than fame, clarity. But life, as always, had one more twist waiting for me. A deal I never saw coming. One that would change everything again. It started with an email I almost ignored. The subject line read, "Acquisition proposal, urgent." I thought it was spam, another fake offer from someone claiming to invest in creators. But something about it caught my attention. I opened it and my eyes froze. A legitimate media company wanted to buy my YouTube channel. Not sponsor it, not collaborate, but buy it outright. They had been following my content for months, watching the transformation, the rebirth, the human side that resonated with millions. And now they wanted to take it global. At first, I laughed. The idea felt absurd. Selling something I'd poured my soul into? My channel wasn't just a brand. It was me. Every sleepless night, every tear, every piece of my past lived inside that channel. But when they mentioned the number, my heart stopped. $10 million. I read it twice, then a third time, just to be sure. I remember sitting completely still, like the air had been sucked out of the room. 10 million. The same channel people mocked, the same dream they called stupid, was now worth more than anything I'd ever imagined. I didn't say yes immediately. I couldn't. I spent nights walking circles around my apartment thinking, was I betraying what I'd built? Or was this the reward for everything I'd endured? I called my mom, the same woman who once cried when I dropped out. She listened quietly, and then said, "Maybe this is what all those sleepless nights were for." That sentence stayed with me. The deal took weeks of negotiation, paperwork, lawyers, signatures. But the moment I clicked send on that final email, confirming the sale, a strange calm washed over me. I thought I'd cry or celebrate or scream, but instead, I just sat there in silence, staring at the screen. I had sold my past, but I'd also bought my future. The next day, news spread fast. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. "Bro, congrats! Knew you'd make it!" I smiled at their sudden admiration. But deep down, I couldn't forget the laughter, the doubt, the pity in their eyes back then. Funny how success rewrites memories. $10 million later, I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I had it, but more importantly, I had peace. I walked into my old college a week after the sale, just to see it again. The same halls, the same faces. And I whispered to myself, they laughed when I dropped out, but they're not laughing now. People often ask me if selling the channel changed me. The truth? It didn't change me. It revealed me. Because once the noise fades, once the applause stops, and once the money hits your account, all that's left is you. And if you don't know who that is, no number will ever fill that void. I learned that the hard way. When I look back, I don't see a $10 million deal. I see a scared kid sitting in a dark room, chasing a dream that no one believed in. I see the laughter, the sleepless nights, the loneliness, the doubt, all of it, and I wouldn't erase a second of it. Because without the pain, the pressure, and the fear, there's no story worth telling. You can't become unbreakable until something tries to break you. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. People will laugh at your dream until you make it real. And when you do, they'll call it luck. Don't let that shake you. Their laughter is proof that they see something in you they don't see in themselves. Let them doubt. Let them talk. Just don't let them decide who you become. Life has a strange way of testing how badly you want something. It'll throw you off balance, strip away your comfort, and dare you to keep going. And when you think you can't take another step, that's usually the moment, right before everything changes. I've lived it. I've felt it. And I'm telling you, the climb is worth it. The irony? After selling my channel, I didn't feel rich. I felt free. For the first time, I could breathe without wondering what the next upload would be. I could live without performing. I could just be. And maybe that's the real victory. Not the money, not the fame, but finding yourself on the other side of everything you thought would destroy you. So if you're listening right now, maybe sitting in a small room, wondering if your dream is too big, too late, or too foolish, remember this. Every empire begins with one crazy decision. I made mine when I dropped out. The world laughed. And then it watched. Dreams don't need approval. They need courage. So don't wait for permission. Create your own story. Because one day, someone's gonna laugh at your dream too. And that's when you'll know you're on the right path. You know, I've learned that every story has two versions. The one people tell about you, and the one you tell yourself. They laughed when I dropped out, but I never stopped writing my version. And maybe that's what you need to do too. Rewrite your story, your way. If this journey made you feel something, hope, anger, belief, then don't let it fade. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because here, we don't just chase dreams, we fight for them. So until next time, remember, it doesn't matter who laughs at your beginning. What matters is who claps at your ending.